Subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so that you know when live we go.
Hello everybody, we are approximately 3 months away from prelims examination. It's high time that you buckle up and you know your standing at all India level. Considering this, RAU'S has launched PRE-PAREEKSHAN, under which we are going to have our first open mock test for GS paper 1 from 19th to 21st March. For the top 50 performers in the PRE-PAREEKSHAN open mock test, there would be 100% scholarship for PTS and QIP 2021. For the next 100 performers, there would be 50% scholarship in PTS and our QIP course. When you attempt the open mock test under the PRE-PAREEKSHAN, you will be given your All India ranking. You'll also get the question level analysis to identify your strong and weak areas. You'll also have a comparative analysis to know the top score, average score, and your score. After the test, you will get live online test discussion. The registration link for the test is given in the description section. For those of you who already have an account on our ELEARN platform, you need not register again. You just have to log in into your account and you will find the test pinned at the top of your feed once the test is uploaded. You can attempt the test anytime between 19th to 21st March. Make the timeline of your preparation such that you feel comfortable to attempt the test covering all the sections of GS. Give the test confidently, get the feedback, and then accordingly for the next 3 months, re-strategize. It is important that you know your standing to have an appropriate strategy for the coming prelims, and for that you must give the test. Now let's take up DNS discussion for today. We'll have discussion on today's newspaper, The Hindu, Delhi edition dated 12th March 2021. We shall pick up articles important for civil service examination and discuss them as per the demand of the exam. The articles that we are going to take up for discussion have been tabulated in front of you and the time stamping for the same has been given in the description section. There is a news article on page number 1, Election Commission files FIR over fake news on hacking of EVMs. Towards the end of our discussion, you will understand and appreciate why Election Commission felt the need of filing this FIR and why we are calling it as fake news on hacking of EVMs. But to reach there, we have to understand the entire safeguards which are there in EVMs so that it becomes hacking proof. See, EVMs, electronic voting machines, they were introduced in India for the first time in the Paravur Assembly constituency in Kerala in 1982. The candidate who lost that assembly election lost by a razor-thin margin of 1-3. He challenged the election result in the High Court of Kerala, arguing that the Representation of People Act 1951 and the Conduct of Election Rules 1961 did not empower the Election Commission to use EVMs. But the High Court refused to entertain, so he went to Supreme Court and Supreme Court ordered a re-election. Incidentally, in the re-election, the losing candidate actually won the election. Then the Supreme Court was the opinion that Election Commission should have conducted the poll by ballot, as prescribed by the then existing provision of Representation of People Act 1951. Supreme Court held that the Election Commission could not innovate a new method. So in 1992, Parliament inserted Section 61A in the Act, validating the use of EVMs and paving the way for their use in the elections. And then Election Commission started wide use of EVMs since 1998. So things as it stand today, you have to know that Section 61A of Representation of People Act 1951 allows the use of EVM by Election Commission of India. This is the first major thing we have learned in our discussion today. Then in 2013, Supreme Court ordered Election Commission of India to introduce the technology of VVPAT, Voter Verified Paper Audit Trail, in order to ensure public verifiability and develop trust in the voting system in India. Election Commission aspired to have 100% voter verifiability and auditability, and these public verifiability and audit system were absent in the EVM machines that were used in countries like Germany, France, Ireland, and hence the Supreme Court of Germany held that the EVM machines that were used there were unconstitutional, whereas Indian Supreme Court has upheld the validity of use of EVM for conducting elections in the country. The Supreme Court of both the nation must have applied their mind and after due diligence must have given their judgment. In the course of our discussion, we will understand why the German Supreme Court and Indian Supreme Court gave different judgments. And hence, in the process, we will also understand what are the extra safeguards that Election Commission of India's EVM have, which EVMs of other countries like that of Germany, France or Ireland didn't have. So let me take you through the safeguards that Election Commission of India's EVM have. There are multiple safeguards on multiple levels, but the most important thing I would like to immediately tell you is that EVM machines are non-hackable. The reason is that the EVM machines are standalone machines. They are not connected to the internet. There is no transmitter or receiver. That means no kind of communication externally can be done with the EVM machines. So there is no chance of hacking. Hacking, as you understand, can be done to computers, mobiles, laptops or any communicating devices which is there on any network, where the hacker can illegally communicate. But since the EVM machines are standalone machines, they are not on any network. So they are not hackable. They cannot be connected to using internet. And they cannot be connected to using any other communication channel like Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. Because there is no frequency receiver, there is no data decoder. In nutshell, these EVM machines are standalone machines. They do not communicate with any other external device. Let's proceed further. Many of you might be having many questions, many doubts, must have read many conspiracy theories. You must be brimming with questions at this moment. But trust me, all of them will be put to rest in next 10 minutes. If EVM machines are standalone machines, the only possibility of any kind of tampering is from within the EVM itself. But at the manufacturing stage, manipulation with the coding of EVM, its internal controller, is not possible because there is very stringent security protocol, physically and at the programming level. How? First of all, Election Commission of India does not use any EVMs produced abroad. Remember this. EVMs are produced indigenously by two PSUs. One is Bharat Electronics Limited, BEL, and the other is Electronics Corporation of India. The software code for the EVMs, they are written in-house by these two PSUs. They are not outsourced and they are approved by Technical Expert Committee of Election Commission of India, or a third-party Technical Expert Committee approved by Election Commission of India. Presently, that is Standard Testing and Quality Certification. This is a body under Ministry of Information and Technology, and this acts as an independent Technical Expert Committee. When the software is written in-house by these two PSUs, they are converted into machine code, one that can be downloaded into the microprocessor or the brain of EVMs. And what happens after this is that this machine code is given to a foreign manufacturer of microprocessor. Because in India, we do not have adequate capability of producing semiconductor microchips. You know that. So the microprocessor, the microchip which is there in the EVM, that is manufactured abroad. And the manufacturer of the microprocessor, that will download this machine code produced by these two PSUs. And they will send it back. Every microchip has an identification number embedded into their memory, and the producers have their digital signatures on them. When they will come back, it can be tested by the Election Commission of India, and there is no question of their replacement on their way back. Through the identification number and the digital signatures, it will be confirmed that these microprocessors are from the original manufacturers. The authorized engineers from the Bharat Electronics Limited or the Electronics Corporation of India Limited will certify that the components are original. And this authorization is done after technical and physical examination which is done in presence of representatives of political parties. So concerns of political parties are put at rest at this point. Concerns related to manipulation that would have been possible so far. The new electronic voting machines which have been produced after 2013 have additional features. Features like tamper detection and self-diagnostics. See, once it is ensured that the microprocessors are the authentic ones because the representatives of political parties can verify them. After that, once they are embedded into EVMs, they are made tamper-proof. Meaning after verification by political parties, further it cannot be changed. Tamper detection feature makes the EVM inoperative the moment anyone tries to open the machine. And self-diagnostic is a feature which the machine checks itself, its health, its integrity once it is switched on. And any change in its hardware or software will be detected. So there is no threat that the microprocessor will not be coming from the original manufacturers because there are digital signatures and they have identification numbers. They are checked by the Election Commission of India. The engineers of BEL, ECIL, they've certified them, and after that, once they are embedded in the EVM machine, they have tamper detection and self-diagnostic features. So the microprocessor once there cannot be changed afterwards. Then Election Commission of India does randomization of EVM machines. They are randomized twice. First at the stage of being allocated to the state for the assembly election, and second at the stage of getting allocated to a particular polling booth within the state. This actually means that which EVM machine will go to which state and which polling booth, that is completely randomly done. Just hold on for a moment and you will understand the importance of this. To ensure that the EVM have been actually randomly allocated, there is a software, EVM tracking software with Election Commission of India. And the present location of every EVM can be known using the software. It is not done through communicating with EVM, but every EVM has a serial number, and before dispatch, ECI will put the final location of EVM in its database. So randomly, Election Commission of India can check that on ground, the EVMs which are there in a particular polling booth, whether they were intended to be dispatched to that polling booth or not. So this way, Election Commission of India can actually check that an EVM has not gone to a particular polling booth deliberately. No manipulation can be done in this regard. So randomization actually ensures that you cannot take a particular EVM to a particular polling booth. Why? Suppose, let's imagine a wild situation where the machine code which is downloaded in the microprocessor of EVM, that is manipulated. But the thing is, how will you manipulate the machine code? You don't know that particular microprocessor will go to which EVM and that EVM will go to which polling booth. That information nobody has ahead of time. In every polling booth, the serial number of political party will be different. You know, in the ballot unit, if you have voted, you would know the names of the candidates, they are arranged serially in the alphabetical order. First the national and the regional parties, then the other parties, then the independent candidates, and at last there is option of nota. Nobody knows ahead of time which candidate of which party will be given the seat. So the alphabetical order of all the candidates cannot be known ahead of time. So the candidate of a particular political party will have which number in the ballot unit, that cannot be known. That will change in every polling booth. And EVMs goes in the polling booth randomly. So how will you do manipulation in the EVM, in the microprocessor, in the machine code of the microprocessor ahead of time? How? That means before an EVM is allocated to a particular polling booth, it is impossible in the wildest imagination that anybody can do any manipulation. So far you will agree with me that EVM is not hackable. Now I will tell you an additional feature of EVM chip. The microcontroller chip, the main operating unit, the brain of the EVM, that is only one time programmable. If anybody tries to reprogram it, the chip will stop working. So you cannot have a scenario where a Trojan horse can be inserted into the microprocessor and later on it can be activated to manipulate the EVM chip. See, previously I told you when the microprocessor with the machine code loaded on it comes back to India, it is tested, and that is tested in presence of representatives of political parties. So some thinking brain among you might have thought that there is a possibility that at this stage the machine will work very well, but it will have a Trojan horse in it, meaning there will be a manipulative code which will be in inactive state. So initially the machine will work perfectly fine, but once the code will be activated, then the manipulation will begin in the EVM. But the thing is, the microcontroller in EVM, that is only one time programmable. So if once it is working fine, then it cannot be manipulated further. If anybody tries to reprogram it using any Trojan horse initially present, then the microprocessor will collapse. EVM will stop working. Additionally, if you would have thought little more, you would know that there could not be any possibility of any Trojan horse to be working in the EVM microprocessor. Because when to activate this Trojan horse, you will not know. The dates are announced by Election Commission of India, not by the ruling party. What will be the date of election in which part of the state, that cannot be known ahead of time. So while you are loading a program in the microprocessor, you cannot load a Trojan horse to be activated on a particular day because the date of election is unknown. And how will you manipulate? What manipulating code will you write? You do not know the position of your candidate in the ballot unit. How will you do it? Now let's check the possibility of manipulation being done once the EVMs are allocated to particular polling booth. But since we have already discussed that the microcontroller chip in the EVM that is programmable only once, you cannot manipulate it. But just for the sake of testing this possibility, let's forget this for a moment. Let's assume that this is not the case. Then there are additional features in the EVM that the ballot unit gets activated by the controller unit for only one key press at a time. See, this is the very basic architecture of EVM. There is a ballot unit, there is a controller unit, there is VVPAT unit, voter verifiable paper audit trail unit, and then there is VVPAT status display unit. VVPAT unit is between the ballot unit and the controller unit. The scheme of things works like this. The controller unit activates ballot unit only for one key press. Meaning, when one key is pressed with regard to one candidate or nota, information corresponding to only one key press will be taken. And that information will be displayed by the VVPAT unit. It will be displayed for 7 seconds. So actually VVPAT is confirmatory that whatever button you have pressed, your vote has been registered corresponding to that. Because if VVPAT has displayed that, that information has gone to controller unit, and second information cannot go to the controller unit. Information is taken only one key press at a time. Any additional key pressed on the ballot button is not sensed by the controller unit, making it impossible to send signals by pressing a sequence of keys or secret codes. Meaning there is no possibility that if you press a button, two votes will be casted. One for your candidate and the other one for some other candidate as per the manipulative code. Only one vote will be casted. And if VVPAT is reading that, that means your vote has been casted. And that also means no other candidate can get vote corresponding to your press. That is why this is an audit system. And this is voter verified because you see on the display and you also get a printout. So any manipulation done at the polling booth unit, that will be caught by VVPAT status display unit. That is why mock poll is being run. And at least 50 votes at all polling station is conducted in front of polling agents of the candidates on the day of poll. The candidates, their representatives can participate in the mock poll. They can ensure that the EVM machines are working fine. And after that, there is no possibility of further manipulation because there cannot be any Trojan horse. There cannot be any hidden code because further programming of the microprocessor cannot be changed because the chip is one-time programmable only. Then while voting, every voter will know where their vote is going because of VVPAT. After the polling is done, the EVM machines, they are sealed and the polling agent put their signatures on the seal. The agents travel to the strong room, the room where the EVM machines are kept. and the candidates or their representatives can put their seals on the strong room to ensure that the rooms were not opened in an unauthorized manner. There are CCTV cameras, security 24/7, and also the candidates or their representatives, they are allowed to camp in front of the strong room. The EVM machines, they are brought to the counting centers under security and in presence of candidates. The unique IDs of the seals, the signatures of the polling agents, they are shown to the representatives of candidates before the counting is started. So after the polling is done and before counting starts, everything is sealed. The sealed can be verified. No manipulation can be done at that stage also. Now, if the wildest horses in your brain are still running, you might think that what if whatever is being told are not true? What if the microcontroller chip are not one-time programmable only? They can be reprogrammed. And what if EVM machines are not standalone machines? They have some kind of communicator. They can be taken on a network, or they have some kind of frequency receiver to communicate with only some particular frequency in narrow bandwidth, the information of which is with very few people, and they are secretly communicating with EVMs. Is that a possibility? See, for this to happen, first of all, the entire system has to be compromised. The Election Commission has to be lying. The foreign manufacturers who are manufacturing the microprocessor are lying because they are saying that it is one-time programmable only when it is not. The engineers of BEL, ECIL, they have to lie. Let's very wildly imagine this doomsday scenario. Then what can happen is representatives of political parties can be shown that the EVM machines are working fine. But then there could be a secret programming code that will be operated at a later stage on the day of polling. The controller unit on that day can be manipulated. But for that to happen, it is imperative that the machine should be able to communicate with an external device. Otherwise, it is not possible. Because only days before election, you will know the exact position of your candidate on the ballot unit. So here's the thing. If EVM is able to externally communicate, any hacker, even of rudimentary level, will be able to detect that frequency with which EVM is actually communicating. The fact that no case so far has appeared, it is proof enough that EVM machines do not communicate externally at any frequency. Had that been the case, it would have been known very easily by now. Because you cannot have a jammer. If you are communicating, anyone can communicate. And all major political parties now have very advanced IT team. There has been no claim from any part of the world that the EVM machines are communicating externally. That brings us to the original claim of Election Commission of India that EVM machines are not hackable. And by no stretch of imagination, anyone can put forward any scenario in which the EVM machines can be said to be hackable. But then we also have to answer the question, if that is the case, then why developed nations like US and many countries in European Union, they have not adopted EVMs? And many have discontinued using EVMs. Election Commission's EVM, they are far superior. First of all, the EVM of countries like Germany, Ireland, Netherlands, these countries, they have stopped using EVM. They were privately manufactured. In India, private participation is not there in EVM manufacturing. These countries also didn't have robust administrative safeguards. In India, we saw in the beginning that there is robust verification and certification system done by independent technical expert committee of ECI or ECI approved third party, like standard testing and quality certification, this body under Ministry of IT. You must also know that the EVMs that were being used in these countries, particularly in that of Netherlands, the voting data from those EVMs were first being transferred to a CD for getting transported and counted. But EVMs of Election Commission of India store the data internally, and data is never transferred out of EVM to any external device, and there is no communication with any external device whatsoever. So the EVMs of Election Commission of India is considered far superior. We saw in our discussion that right from the beginning to the last stage of counting, there is full end-to-end administrative and security safeguard. But such kind of mechanism were not developed by election commissions of those countries. They also didn't use VVPAT system. Our EVMs have auditability, and that audit is done by VVPAT system. To summarize the characteristic features of EVMs used by Election Commission of India, these are the points you have to remember. They are standalone, non-networked machine. They do not have any frequency receiver or any data decoder, meaning they do not communicate with any external device at any frequency. Data is stored internally and they are not transferred to any other device at any stage. The microcontroller chip in the EVMs, they are one-time programmable only. They have features like tamper detection, self-diagnostics. There is no private participation in manufacturation of EVMs. Only two PSUs are involved in their manufacturation: Electronic Corporation of India Limited and Bharat Electronics Limited. There is a system for verification and certification independently by Technical Expert Committee. And one of the third-party Technical Expert Committee approved by Election Commission of India is Standardization Testing and Quality Certification, which works as an attached body under Ministry of Information and Technology. Election Commission of India does a very important process for distribution of EVMs to the states and polling booths: randomization. To ensure that randomization is done and no manipulation, no corrupt practices goes on while distribution of EVM, Election Commission of India has EVM tracking software. On the day of poll, before the poll begins, mock poll is done in front of representatives of candidates. And after the 2013 order of Supreme Court, VVPAT system is also included. So we come to the beginning. Now you will understand and appreciate as to why German Supreme Court declared the EVM machines used there as unconstitutional. Because the EVM machines there didn't have the safeguard features. The Election Commission there did not have proper administrative and security safeguard mechanism. But the Supreme Court of India upheld the validity of use of EVM for conduction of election, because the EVMs used by Election Commission of India is far superior and the administrative and security safeguard of Election Commission of India is elaborate. And now you will also be in position to understand that why Election Commission felt the need to lodge an FIR and why it considers the news of hacking EVM as fake news. Because EVMs are unhackable. But to end this discussion, I would like to highlight one point. Although EVMs are unhackable, you understand, I understand. A person with general awareness will understand the mechanism in which EVMs are manufactured, distributed, operated. But for common people who might not have understanding of electronics, microprocessor, downloading of program, the feature of one-time programmable only microprocessor, things like that, how will he have confidence? For the purpose of that, Supreme Court issued a directive of using VVPAT, Voter Verified Paper Audit Trail, in 2013. So this was adopted by Election Commission of India. But the thing is that there is difference in manipulation and malfunction. All of us must have experienced malfunction of code. While using your laptop, your mobile phone, your computer, you might have observed that the program is not being executed properly. The machines start to malfunction sometimes. Although we are convinced that EVM machines cannot be manipulated, but what if there is intrinsic mistake? What if the machine is malfunctioning? What is the safeguard for that? That we have not discussed. The safeguard for that will be VVPAT. VVPAT is a guarantee that the vote registered in the EVM is corresponding to the button that you have pressed. That guarantee is VVPAT. It is displayed on the EVM machine and a printout of that is also given to the voter. The printout has the serial number of the candidate and also the election symbol of the candidate. So anybody can recognize to whom he or she has voted. To ensure that there is no malfunction, what Election Commission of India has to do, it has to corroborate two numbers coming from VVPAT and the counting numbers from the EVM machine. If those two matches, then there is no malfunction. In order to do that, Election Commission of India, via its guideline, declared that physical verification will happen of one EVM machine in every assembly constituency. So in every constituency, for one EVM machine, there will be corroboration of VVPAT numbers and the final number coming out of the EVM machine. Supreme Court later increased it to 5. 5 randomly chosen EVM machines in every assembly constituency. Recently, group of opposition parties went to Supreme Court to review that judgment. They wanted at least 25% of EVM machines in every constituency to be tested against VVPAT numbers. So far, Supreme Court has not admitted this plea and has not reviewed its previous judgment mandating 5 EVM machines in every constituency to be tested against VVPAT numbers. One cannot deny malfunctioning of machine. Semiconductors sometimes can go wrong. It happens with all machines, so will happen with EVMs as well. Our concern of manipulation has been laid to rest, but the concern of malfunction still is there. So maybe this number of 5 EVM in every assembly can be increased, if not to 25% because that will be too much of burden, maybe to 5 or 10%. This article is from page number 9, I guess. India-Japan Space Agencies Review Ties. India and Japan's space agency ISRO and JAXA, they had bilateral meeting recently in which they reviewed the cooperation in Earth observation, lunar cooperation and satellite navigation. Regarding cooperation of ISRO and JAXA, Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, you must know that they have signed an implementing agreement for collaborative activities in rice crop area and air quality monitoring. Previously, many a times in DNS, we have done Earth observation satellite. And by now you would know that Earth observation satellite actually observes the wavelength of the light. And wavelength of every molecule would be unique. So radiation coming from rice crop, unless they are very close breed, will be different. Wavelength of air molecules and the pollutants there are also different. So based on that concept, you can actually monitor any kind of area, any vegetation, any plantation, forest area, minerals, air quality, everything. Now I would like to bring your attention to the most important cooperation between ISRO and JAXA, and that is LUPEX, Lunar Polar Exploration Mission. The two exploration agencies have already started to work on it. The plan is to send a lunar rover and lander to explore South Pole region of the moon in 2024. An increased interest has gone into exploration of South Pole of the moon. Chandrayaan-2 made an attempt to have a soft landing by lander Vikram and rover Pragyan at latitude of about 70 degrees south. Somewhere here, as you can see in this figure. The majority of lunar mission has been in the equatorial region. Previous to Chandrayaan-2 attempt, the southernmost was Surveyor 7 of NASA. Chandrayaan-2 made an attempt to land southernmost of all the mission. And this was supposed to be the first to do it. But just around 350 meters from the surface, things went wrong and we lost the signal from the lander and the rover. Chang'e 4 of China, this was the first aircraft to make a landing on the far side of the moon, in the Von Karman crater in the Aitken Basin towards the southern pole of the moon. But this was not too far south, it was only 45.5 degrees south. NASA is also planning to have a manned mission to the South Pole by 2024 through the Artemis 3 mission. So question must be raised, what's there in the South Pole? First of all, you would appreciate the importance of exploring moon. Moon provides one of the best linkage to Earth's early history. And the far side of the moon provides undisturbed historical record of the early inner solar system environment. To understand and appreciate it better, you have to be aware that moon is tidally locked with Earth. It means that always the same side of the moon is visible from the Earth. One half of the moon is never visible from any part of the Earth. The side which is visible is called the near side. The side that is always invisible on the other side is called the far side. And towards the South Pole of the far side of the moon, there are many lunar craters. And the composition in those lunar crater is supposed to have the skeleton of the early solar system composition or the early composition of Earth. But this side of the moon has remained unexplored. Why? Because the conditions are extreme there. There are more number of craters, there are more hills, the plain region are less. So in the beginning, the safety of the mission was most important. So the missions were sent in the equatorial region and to the near side of the moon. But now with the advancement of technology and material that can resist the extreme condition on the far side, we are attempting to explore the far side. Because several orbiter missions around the moon, they have given us evidence. For example, NASA's Resource Prospector mission, NASA's Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter that has been orbiting moon since 2009. These missions have provided evidence of higher percentage of hydrogen towards the South Pole and towards the far side of the moon. They have given conclusive evidence of presence of ice molecules in substantial amounts in the deep craters in this region. NASA's L-Cross mission, Lunar Crater Observation and Sensing Satellite. This mission showed that there are hydrogen, methane and ammonia and even metals like sodium, mercury and silver. We expect that the south pole of moon has vast resource for future exploration and future use. There are real prospect of mining of uranium and plutonium and bringing them back to Earth. That will solve all our problem of energy crisis. The south pole is like horizon for the sun. The inclination of sun ray is very low and long shadows are formed towards the crater region. Some of the craters are so deep it always remains dark and cold. So anything that would be there will remain frozen in time with no change happening ever since they were trapped there. They can act as pages in the book of the evolution of our solar system. That is why exploration of South Pole is gaining momentum. On page number 1 of today's newspaper, you'll find a mention of Lingaraja temple. Let's jot down the points which are important regarding Lingaraja temple from the perspective of civil service prelims examination. First of all, Lingaraja temple is dedicated to Lord Shiva. It was built by King Jajati Keshri of Shoma Vansh. The temple was constructed in 11th century, but later addition to this temple was done by Ganga rulers. Lingaraja temple is one of the finest example of Kalinga style of architecture, which became popular in the region of Odisha in the eastern India. Kalinga style of architecture is classified as subcategory of northern temple architecture style or Nagara style. The temple is built in red stone. There is a very famous lake, Bindusara Lake, located to the north of the temple. And also there are other lakes near the temple like Marichi Kunda, Ganga Jamuna. One of the striking features of Kalinga style of architecture is the dula, the shape of the shikhara of the temple. We'll talk about it in a moment. Lingaraja temple has 4 components: the Vimana, which is a structure containing the sanctum, Jagmohana, the assembly hall, Nata Mandira, the festival hall, and Bhoga Mandapa, the offering hall. Kalinga architecture, as we have just talked about, has 2 features, characteristics by which the temples are classified. One is the shape of tower and the other is the hall. The tower, the shikhara of the temple, is called as Dula and the hall is called as Jagmohan. As you can see from this picture, both the tower and the hall, they are intricately carved. It is lavishly sculpted. But it is the shape of the Dula, the shikhara, that gives 3 distinct types of temple in Kalinga architecture. Accordingly, the temples in Kalinga architecture are classified as Rekha Dula, Pidha Dula and Khakra Dula. If the shape of the shikhara is like this, it is towering big, it is called as Rekha Dula. If the shape of the shikhara is like this, which is pyramidal in shape, it is called as Pidha Dula. And this is the shape of the shikhara, which makes the temple called as Khakra Dula. The beautiful sun temple of Konark, if you see the shape of shikhara, it is pyramidal. So this is a Pidha Dula temple. If you can guess which temple is this is Jagmohan temple of Odisha. And you can easily identify this part of the temple is Rekhadula. These two are pyramidal in shape. These are Pidhadula. And this is Khakradula. In the Lingaraja temple, you will find Rekhadula and Pidhadula. Rekhadula and Pidhadula, they are mostly for Lord Vishnu, Surya and Shiva. Khakradula is mostly associated with Chamunda and Durga temples. Also, the Rekhadula and Khakradula, they houses the sanctum, while the Pidhadula mostly they constitute the outer dancing and the offering halls. On page number 13, there is an article, China Parliament approves 5-year plan. In this 5-year plan of China, there are two things that is of India's interest. One is the plan of dam construction on Brahmaputra and another is the Arunachal village. Dam construction lately has been discussed on 8th of March 2021 and Arunachal village on 22nd January 2021. In case you need reference and revision for these two topics, you can refer to these dated DNS. Now sit tight and summon all your attention. Based on the discussion we had, I'm going to ask you a few questions. The idea is that you have to give a speed test. Sometimes we have the knowledge, we have the information, but because of paucity of time, we do mistake. Test your attentiveness, test your endurance to handle pressure. I'll be reading the question and immediately I'll be giving the answer. But the thing is, you have to guess the right answer before I give you the answer. If you can do that, it's good. If you can't, you have to try to improve. Let's begin. The electronic voting machines were introduced for the first time in India in 1988. This is an incorrect statement because they were introduced for the first time in 1982. Representation of the People's Act 1951 allows for the use of EVMs by Election Commission of India. This is a correct statement. Initially, it didn't explicitly allow, but after amendment in 1992, Section 61A now provides for this. Statement 3. Electronic voting machines are standalone machines and are not connected to internet or any other network, and they do not have any frequency receiver or data decoder. This is absolutely correct statement, and this is the characteristic, the features on which the integrity of electronic voting machine stands. Statement 4 is there is no private participation in manufacturation of EVMs. We will take this as correct statement because there is no private participation from India, but we have discussed that the microcontroller chip that is manufactured abroad, and there is private participation. But then there are administrative safeguards, as we also discussed, to maintain the integrity of the process. Statement 5. VVPAT has to be compulsorily used in all EVMs. This is a correct statement in present time because after 2013 Supreme Court's directive, Election Commission of India is bound to do so. Physical matching of all VVPAT data has to be done by Election Commission of India. This is an incorrect statement. It has to be done only for 5 EVM machines in every constituency. Will you mind if I ask you this? Right to vote and to get elected in India is a constitutional right. True or false? Although we didn't discuss this, but we discussed these many things, and these things are important to be discussed because right to vote and to get elected is a constitutional right. It is the highest right conferred on citizens of India. This is very, very important. And in fact, UPSC asked this in the prelims examination of 2017. This is absolutely correct. Lunar Polar Mission, LUPEX mission, will be the first to land a rover on the south pole of moon. Incorrect statement. Chandrayaan 2 already attempted that, and Chang 4 of China already did that. Artemis 3 will land astronauts on the moon's south pole in 2024. This is the plan. This is absolutely correct. Moon's rate of rotation and revolution around Earth is same. The other way of saying this would be moon is tidally locked with Earth. Moon is tidally locked because the rate of rotation and rate of revolution is the same. So this statement is correct. The Sun Temple is an example of Rekhadula. Incorrect statement because Sun Temple is an example of Pidhadula. The final question for you, Lingaraja temple is built in red stone. This is absolutely correct. This is one reason why they are intricately carved, profusely sculpted. Correct statement. Tell me your score, but following the rule, you had to guess the answer before I give you the answer. Now you must attempt question for the day. Answer to yesterday's question has been marked in red. Please attempt today's question, give your answer in the comment section, and also attempt the DNS quiz on ELEARN platform. Until next time, goodbye, take care.